You're now tuned into the Fully Booked podcast with Mace, French, and Pox. Enjoy the listen.
Where to go? Tell me where to go. Use my inner voice. Tell me where to go. Tell me where to go.
Say what? Say what?
Celibate gang. gang. Repping.
Oh shit. C-Town boy.
You gotta redeem yourself soon though.
Oh shit.
Otherwise, can't let you live that down.
So yeah, we're in the studio.
What is good?
Myself, Mace.
Myself, French.
So Pete, Andrew.
What? First name basis, yeah?
No, I've said my name a few times.
And connecting with the audience. Yeah, it's Fully Booked. You're usually used to tuning in, us getting stuck into some book or another, whether it's relationships, whether it's scientific and healthy eating, whether it's the masks we wear in societies. Yeah, all different types of books you're used to us just kicking off with. But today we said, you know what, let's just do a little review show. For those of you that's new, for those of us that's been around a while and kind of want to know how we started, how we formulated, where we came from. So we decided, let's just have a catch up between us really, and just kind of talk about our journeys, our individual journeys, our journeys collectively, and how, you know, Fully Booked was formed, and how Fully Booked is commencing, and what we're looking forward to in the future. So with no further ado, Pox, I'm looking at you. Bars. So yeah, I don't know where you want to start. I mean, you could start with, I think just off there just now, French, you started and just said kind of the first books we read that we didn't air, that we kind of just read between us. I don't know if who wants to really kick off and just talk about that.
Yeah, it was the Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And do you know what? I was actually listening to a few of his speeches today in regards to the same book. And I thought it would be quite poignant to speak about it, because that's what's the book that's kind of got us where we are, basically. From it bringing up about having a mastermind. This is how we started. And yeah, I guess reminiscing on the first times that we were sitting down together reading the book and really I guess forming Fully Booked, but not actually knowing that we are forming Fully Booked. Yeah, so what's your thoughts about the book in general? Like, anyone?
I was going to say, it's a good book. No, of course, it was a very good book. I mean, I can't remember all the details as such, but I do remember it having a lot of similarities to another book I think we both read, in The Secret, in that basically you kind of manifest what you think about and what you speak about, and even the people you kind of surround yourselves with as well. So I remember obviously enjoying reading the book, and it obviously setting pace, but starting and beginning a path of kind of thinking positive as to kind of what I want to do and what I want to achieve and all that type of stuff. But fast forward, let's say 18 months maybe, and when I say we've read obviously several different types of books, which I think have been beneficial really as to different facets of life.
Do you know what? You look gonna have to help me. I can't. My man's terrible. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. That wasn't where he was using examples. Whose book was it we read once, and it was about almost doing anything you can to get to the top?
That's Power.
Right.
That's the
Power.
second book that we done.
Yeah.
But no, the reason why I was because basically how it all kicked off was, remember, I see you on the road one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, we were just discussing something, and I think I must have said I'm reading.
You might be reading the same
Yeah, I said I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, and you said you was doing the same. And from then it was like, yeah, you know, someone I also knew, obviously Mace. Like that's someone that wants to get involved in reading, and we was like, let's use what we know, what we've read in the book so far about having a mastermind. Let's set that up and let that be the premise of why we're meeting up and what have you. And yeah, I got that book. My brother gave me that book as a present. I think on Christmas, and I hadn't read it for a while. I didn't read it initially. Then when I did start reading it, I took to it straight away. Like I literally, it blew my mind. Like I was like, oh shit, this is mad. Like first things that he was giving about the examples about his son, and just the people that have used these techniques, well, not even techniques, but the guide of using certain strategies to obviously better your life, whether it's through health or through a monetary sense. But I just thought, yeah, no, this is a really good book. And I remember reading the first chapter, and it states not to read it by chapter, like don't just read it continuously, like you actually have to let it sink in. So I was reading it and I sat down with it and I was like, yeah, no, this is a dope book. Then yeah, as I said, I come across P, and at that point I'd read the mastermind part. I was like, do you know what, so this is meant to be like, we should be having a mastermind. So that's what kind of first drove me to put the idea forward. And yeah, man, since then, I guess, yeah, it's been really good. It's been a dope journey. I think the first times that we were sitting in, where was we, in the leisure centre, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to be chilling there. Do you still have them recordings furthermore? Because we actually first, no, actually, now I'm thinking about it. Did we record the first book, or was it Power that we started recording?
We didn't start recording for a while, because first we started off on like some dictaphone. Do you remember?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't think.
But I'm sure that was on the second book.
No, I do have it. Because I was trying to think which external hard drive I lost. I lost the second one, not the first one.
But that was on the second one. That was Power, right?
No, I'm talking about. Oh, I'm not too sure.
When we started actually because remember initially we started off with Think and Grow Rich, and we read through the book, and that was a time we was
power off.
I was starting a business. You was basically involved in the business already, and Macy was talking about doing your book. So we all had things to look forward to and push each other, and it was a really good camaraderie to have, because every week we'd be coming back and saying, this has been done, this has not been done, this has worked, that's not worked. And yeah, kind of bouncing off each other, man. So it was dope. And I remember then we went to Power, and that's the book you're referring to, right? Yeah, that was impactful. I think Power's 48 Laws of Power referring to. That was an impactful book. It was a book that I was well versed with, just because of, I guess, the hip hop community. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to hear a lot of rappers talk about the 48 Laws of Power, so I was always intrigued about it anyway. So when it came to reading it, there was some parts that I was like, nah, I can't fuck with. Like, some of it to me was a bit snaky, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's making me think about actually some of the
morals.
things that you've
I
seen.
think a lot of it was to do with
people
morals.
follow out.
I think for me, morally, there were certain laws that I couldn't really abide by and say, that's something I'm going to do or use. But there was certainly a lot of food for thought, definitely a lot of strategies to use in the business world and just in life in general as well. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed that book. What about you lot?
No, I didn't like 48 Laws of Power, and the reason being, it didn't rest. I think I might have said we didn't record, but it didn't rest well with me morally.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel comfortable with me. It felt like it was a book to say, look, if you want all the power, you can that's possibly out there, and obviously with it, the money, whatever people associate with power, then essentially you have to double cross or get one over, whether it's your enemy or your closest friend. It's all about you, and it almost taught you, when you get to the top, or to get to the top, you're gonna be by yourself. So on your way there, don't worry about kind of cutting people or burning bridges, double crossing people, and that just didn't sit with me morally. So once I started reading those kind of parts of the book, because I can't remember how far into the book it was, once I started seeing things where it was referring to, burn bridges, and it didn't, not those words specifically,
But more or less,
burn bridges to get where you need to get to. It just didn't sit with me. I was reading and it wasn't even sinking. I was like, nah, I don't agree with this methodology.
But it took us time to get through that book, because we was doing it law by law. So it was literally, imagine we recorded that as a season, that would have been like 48 flipping episodes or something. Yeah. But I agree with your points. I think I enjoyed it for the fact of the strategies that it come with, because there are things in that book that you can apply to business, and it's not a morally wrong thing. For me personally, there are things in there that I could definitely use and attribute to just life in general. But I think, overall, it's definitely a book that is, as you said, it can come across as you're out to win and you've got no friends, that you're looking to be on the top by yourself. Like literally, when you think of It's Lonely at the Top, you would then think of that book.
If you're snaking everyone, but you've got rid of everybody. It wasn't. I mean, I can't remember how I felt after reading the book, but as Mason mentioned, during the course of obviously reading the book, there's certain things obviously that again obviously didn't really sit well with myself as well. Like morally, I like to believe I'm a very clean-hearted individual, so some of the things that were said in the book it just weren't really for me. But again, I'm not really surprised that like some of this stuff plays out in the music industry, because again, obviously, as you mentioned before, a lot of people kind of, I don't want to say abide, but kind of like have followed the book or certainly quoted the book and some of the things they said before. So again, obviously the music industry and the industry, let's say in general, have been known for being a bit snaky or a bit, how would I term it, untrustworthy, let's say. So I'm not really surprised.
I think you could get that in all industries though.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, I mean, so in reference to the book, like I just couldn't, I mean, of course you find it in all industries, but I mean, by and large, I think a lot of businessmen and some of the people, I would say, well, certainly from a previous experience that I've had, I remember hearing someone saying in particular, and in order to get to the top, what was this phrase? Like, you've got to kind of have like a devilish streak. And I do have a problem with people having a devilish streak, but I think, again, I was going to say I don't have a problem with the devilish streak, but I think it depends really where you apply that. You know what I mean? Where's all that energy going towards? If it's going towards double crossing someone, then...
Bro, some people just get a buzz, a thrill out of just flipping winning or being first, or like, and they get so much of a buzz or a thrill out of doing that. They don't mind, like...
There's nothing wrong with being first though.
Yeah, but
It's
like,
how you
as
go
in
about
all
doing it.
costs.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Some people don't, like, they'll do anything. Like, I just... In the football world, I just think of Luis Suarez. He doesn't mind. He doesn't care. Trust me, he doesn't. He'll handball something on the goal line against Ghana and then watch the penalty miss from the sidelines and celebrate. Like he'll dive all over the pitch. Some people, they don't care. They don't care. Trust me.
Some people be raised wrong, boy.
I was going to say though, before, I think kind of jumped the gun a bit, because I was going to ask, like, what's your favourite parts or kind of things that you remember from Think and Grow Rich? Is there anything specific that you can say that you've taken from it or implemented, or even would recommend someone reading to look for a certain particular subject?
In regards to anything specific, I can't remember things specific, but I mean, I'll say a lot of the moral of the story for me was about your mindset and just ensuring it was positive it needs to be positive in order to achieve the outcome that you'd ideally wish. So that was the main thing also I took from it. Obviously in reading The Secret, which I know is a different book, because they share a lot of similarities, again, obviously I was able to take a lot away from it. I mean, obviously and just apply it to my everyday life, which is obviously the most important thing for me. I mean, because of the stuff that I've either been involved in, I'm talking about from a working point of view, it's important to keep yourself upbeat. If you're working primarily on your own and you're the captain of that ship, it's important to have a positive mindset, you know? So that's, I think, one of the main things I took from it, really.
Yeah, for me, I can't remember the book. I'm just being
There's
dead
no
honest.
surprise.
No, I'm just being dead honest, bro. There's only a certain amount of information that my brain can maintain at any one given point.
Yeah.
And I remember everything from Attached, which was season 1. So before that, I can't even remember. I'd have to my memory would have to be jogged for me to, because I can't even remember the books. Which book that was read? I don't know if it was Think and Grow Rich. Had a lot of stories, like almost Greek mythology stories. Was that Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah,
That was part of it, yeah.
Okay.
It was you liked quite a few of those
Stories. Parables.
Yeah, parables.
See, I'd have to go back.
And maybe you might be thinking about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, because there's quite a few in there.
No, it wasn't that, because we read that on the podcast.
Yeah.
This
So
is
yeah,
before.
you're referring to that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can't remember enough of it to give an opinion. What about you?
Fair enough. Yeah, and I've taken quite a bit from it.
Yeah.
Like there are I think I discussed it last time. I've discussed it with you guys a couple of times, and I've watched a few videos on it, like sex transmutation. I think that's like it's a subject that I'm very curious about, like how it would work. Well, not even how it works. I'm aware of how it works, but applying it, I think it's easier said than done to apply it. But I think it's really interesting. And it's something that I've been looking into outside of the podcast, just kind of watching videos and reading other articles on it. Another thing is when I think the first part of the book, the very first part of the book, Napoleon Hill tells you to state your intentions. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you've got a goal in mind, what it will take, what you're willing to sacrifice, and what it would look like. And that's something I've applied and I've written down, and I definitely keep going back to it. So that's a book. That's probably the first book I will mention to someone if they said if there's one book that you could recommend in the realm of like self-development, because I feel all the other books that I've come across or read tends to be Think and Grow Rich is almost like the nucleus of them all. Like they all seem to refer back to that book, Napoleon Hill's book, in one way or another, or they touch on subjects that he's also explained in the book in one way or another as well. So that's definitely my go-to out of them all, which I've read so far. Mm-hmm. But
so out of the 5 that we've read, or are you talking about generally?
I'm talking about all of them.
Okay.
Like, all the in the realm of self-development. That's definitely the book for me. That's the go-to. But there are other books that I do like, which we'll discuss further. But going on to Power, back onto Power. I agree with them points. So
Mm-hmm. So after Power, when did we decide? Because we gradually were stepping up with equipment.
We got the professional mic. And that.
Was we still recording in the Leisure Centre? I can't remember.
Yeah, we was.
Yeah, to begin with, yeah.
And then alright, so we're still reading books, we've stepped up the equipment. Why were we recording then in the first place if we didn't know what we was doing with it? Do you remember?
No, at this point
we kind of said, alright, let's make it a podcast.
Yeah, when we bought this equipment, yes.
Yeah, when we committed and said, alright, cool, let's make it a podcast. That's when we bought the mic and said, alright, let's set up everything and all them thing there. So, what book what was the first one that we recorded? Is it Attached?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we put out on the podcast was Attached.
So was it just 2 books that we done prior before we started recording?
I don't think so. I think maybe 3.
I'm sure we done another. But I can't remember off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But moving on to Attached then. Yeah, that's probably been Attached. That's probably it's definitely been up there as one of my favourite books. And I think what I loved about Attached was it's so true to, like, the scenarios mentioned in Attached, they can be true to life. I like the fact it broke down your relationship types into secure, avoidant, and anxious, and then the fourth half one, which is anxious avoidant, which is not so typical. And I like the fact it gave you this study to do, which it just caught fire, because when we put that out and said take part, like, do the study, it only takes 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. And people were doing it. I was getting so many messages on my phone saying, I'm anxious, I'm this. And it drove traffic towards our podcast. That book, I think still to this day, and it's probably because it was the first one we've done, but that book has that diverted the most traffic towards the podcast in terms of people that have listened to the podcast, they've mostly listened to that book, or that first season. People took a lot from it. They were applying things to their own relationships based off that book. Even myself, I think I was freshly in a relationship or dating someone at the time, and I was able to apply things from the book and just like have pointers. And I've recommended the book to people who have told me about scenarios within their lives, and I've been like, read this book. And come to think about it, I mean, when I look back on the book now, I'm like, so this random person just basically said, there's 3 types of relationships. I've done studies on about 100 people, and this is what I found. And then basically, like, I've taken that as true to word, and there's only 3 types of relationships. So when I look back at it now, I'm like, maybe it's not so true. But at the time,
the whole concept in my head, the book was refreshing. It kind of caught fire, especially around, like in and around the podcast, in and around people that I knew within my circle who I sent like the test out to. So I really liked that book. And I still like, and I can still refer back to it, and even when I see people's relationships, I'll still be judging people, if that makes sense. Like, you're this person's secure, or you're avoidant. I still refer back to those terminologies. So it's probably one of my favorites, one of the most enjoyable as well. Definitely one of the most enjoyable books that I've read with the team so far. What about you guys? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised with the stuff that you actually mentioned, but there's not a but actually. I think the book was like excitable because it was interactive.
Yeah, it's a good
So
word.
it was interactive, and it kind of like asked loads of questions to which obviously maybe you might ask your friends and stuff like that, and things that people probably didn't know about themselves. It kind of forced them to kind of put a mirror up there and ask themselves these questions, and then they obviously reflect back on themselves, and then I don't know, they'll find out one or two things they probably didn't quite ask before or didn't quite realise before. Give them the opportunity to look back at some of their previous relationships or scenarios and situations they've been in before as well, and kind of say, you know what, this is the type of person I am, and I didn't quite realise that. And I don't know if the person wants to improve that situation. If you're an avoidant or something and you want to become maybe a bit more secure, then you might want to work towards that. I don't know, I mean, I enjoyed the
Fuck
book.
working towards being secure.
No, it's not. That's not. Do you know what I've realised?
See, no, because you know what? He looked at me when he said that. He looked at me like, oh, so if you're
I know
avoidant
that.
and you want to be secure, why did you look at me, bro?
Just looking up me.
Nah, he was looking at me. He was looking at Mace when you were saying it, then you've looked at me as you said avoidant.
Trying to get eye contact with the
Ah,
whole room.
shut up.
Do you know what I've realised? The book's not about. Okay, it is actually, because it angles you towards everyone should be working towards secure, but it's not about kind of tarnishing avoidance or people that are anxious. It's about recognising you have these people and
Game recognized game.
this guy, this C gang, this C gang guy.
Game
Are you
recognized
mad?
game.
What? Well, you recognise that, bro? You recognise C-Gang? I don't rep that, bro. Well, mate, she reps C-Gang. You with this guy? Sediment gang. What?
As I was saying, so it wasn't. It's not about tarnishing. It's not. Yeah, it is saying that secure is the kind of right way to be almost, but what it's not about tarnishing the other two attachment styles. So avoidant and anxious. It's about recognizing that these type of people are out there and they are the
Majority.
minority.
Who? Secure. Oh yeah. True. Yeah,
Anxious
right.
and avoidant. They are the minority, and it's about recognizing that these people out there and their traits. And I remember at the time saying to both of you, there was a person I was dating before reading this book, and I just thought that she was a bit different. Let's just for lack of a better word, or lack of a ruder word, I just thought she was a bit different. What I've realised is actually she felt into a different attachment style to myself that I'd never come across before, and I didn't know how to deal with that attachment style. Whereas if I had known from the start she's this attachment style, and I know these are the kind of traits she has, now I can either say, do you know what, I'm willing to deal with it, and I know how to best deal with the anxious and the moments of anxiety she incurs. She anyway, curse. She cursed. Whereas at the time I was like, yo, this person's different to me. She must be crazy. Like, it doesn't work like that. So I know you're there, P child. You couldn't wait to just
No. I was go on. I had a question actually.
to just.
P loves some bus shots.
Is it to
Blanks.
just
No, this is not even.
look-
this is
He loves
not-
some
this-
bus shots
this is not
in
even-
blanks.
My my statement was even about him.
Whatever,
Wait
bro.
about him. You took it personal.
Nah, bro. You're always trying to bust a shot with no blanks. That's what you do.
My
Straight
no,
up.
that was a very generic statement. Just came to me straight away, boy. Leaped over the table.
Yeah, no,
I had a question actually, but so do you want me to ask it? Or you gonna continue?
yeah, go on. You can ask the question.
Now, obviously, I know you're in a situation now.
Yeah.
You're in a situation, I was gonna say, relationship.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, how well equipped are you to deal with those type of situations?
Much better. Is the answer? Yeah. I can't give you a number or a percentage.
No.
But
It was
like-
just.
Yeah, much better, because like the book taught me a lot, bro. I'm not gonna lie, and I think that's why I hold it in high regard, because I'd literally fresh come out of a situation where I know for a fact I was dealing with someone who was of the anxious trait according to the book. So it taught me a lot, and I was like, all right. And then also you take that. There's like for those of you who haven't read it, it is a good book to read. It's one I would recommend. But for those of you who haven't read it, halfway through the book or about a fifth of the way through the book, it gives you a website to go to where you can take this test, and it basically assigns you to, after you've taken the test, it assigns you to a category of secure, anxious, and avoidant. It breaks down what each means, but it also breaks down if you, for instance, were anxious. If you for instance were anxious, what you should be looking for, what you should be willing to put up with, what you should and shouldn't be doing, because you're probably doing the things the book tells you not to, and it explains why you shouldn't be doing those things. Or if you're secure, how to comfort someone who is anxious or who needs they might just need to drop them a message to say, hey, I hope you're well. Battery's about to die, which is why you won't be able to get hold of it for the next couple of hours. They need that message. Whereas before that, like, I wouldn't have known. I would have just thought, yo, like, batteries die every day, B. Like, do you know what I mean? What was your... So did you have another question, Pete?
I did, but I was kind of thinking, how soon are you like, willing to... I don't want to say put up with...
it's not a case of putting up...
I think you put the wrong word, but...
I think it's a case of just understanding the person you're with. And then, that take away these relationship categories or attachment styles. That's a general rule of thumb anyway. Like, just understanding the person you're with and deciding whether or not you want to be with them for their personality traits or the way they are. So even if you take away those attachment styles, I think it's just that case.
So this may be a personal question, and you can just say you're not answering it.
Yeah.
It's how soon in your previous relationship?
Yeah.
How soon did you realise?
Something wasn't. Yeah, this isn't for me right now in my life. What happened was, I think within about, I think we was like, so it was fast paced. Started date. We didn't have. Well, the warning signs were there first straight away because we didn't even have a friendship. Does that make sense? We didn't.
No, I'm thinking because
we didn't. We didn't.
That
have,
makes sense to Pete.
Right.
No. What's this geezer? Why are you attacking me for? That's me trying to ask him intelligent questions.
Didn't have a friendship.
What's wrong with French?
How do I? I'll just get back to my journey. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. So what happened? We didn't have any type of ship like beforehand, friendship or anyway. Yeah, we didn't have. There was no build up or anything. Like, it was quite bang. You're in something now, and I'm not the type to like label up things, but some of the females I have dated, they need that label status. So I was like, I just kind of see how it goes, and if we've seen how it goes for a number of months, obviously it's at a point in my head. We're always at a point where we're exclusive. Like in my head, if I start seeing someone, we're already. I haven't got the time or energy to be checking or fooling around or trying to message someone else anyway. So if we're at a point where, we're seeing how it goes, I'm only seeing how it goes with you and no one else. Do you know what I'm saying? But some females, they need that. They just need you to say it. They need the wording. It's like a contract that needs to be signed. That's just how it goes. But with this particular person, I think something happened where I think there was a slip of the tongue for myself. And when I say slip of the tongue, I don't even mean as in like I swore or any bad remarks or bad behaviour. It was literally, I think I actually slipped up with something I said in terms of I might have said the wrong word or I said the wrong... Something very, very, very minute, which you just laugh off. And for some reason, it's stuck in this person's head. And then I remember they're sitting there asking themselves 16, 17, 18 questions out loud with me in a room, and they were driving themselves crazy. And the next minute, they was like, I don't want to be with you.
What?
Yeah, they said, I don't want to be with you. Delete my number. Delete any photos you have of me. Leave me alone. And about a few hours later, they phoned me back. And they phoned me up and said, and apologised. Anyway, that was weird. But I just let it slide the first off. And then it happened about 2 or 3 times. But every time it happened, I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, this person's pushing me. I'm getting close. They're pushing me away. Getting close, pushing me. I thought, I can't plan ahead with someone like this that doesn't know whether they're coming. 1 minute, we can have a minor disagreement, and next minute, you don't want to be with me. That's not how life works. You're going to have disagreements, things you don't agree with, stages where it's hardship. I want someone who's going to want to work through that. Does that make sense? Where we're not getting on, but actually, we know that we can work this out rather than just run away straight away. Do you not think P understands what's going on?
What's wrong with you lot?
Stop.
He's laughing.
I don't know what you said.
Oh, do you say won't Pete understand what's going on there? Is that what
Just
you
look at
think?
him, man. He looked at me. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so. Yeah, and then, anyway, it was on one of these such occasions where I got a phone call. I think it was the person wanted to meet me, but at the time I was busy. We hadn't made any prior arrangements to meet up. Anyway, after I got off the phone, they went berserk and said, you know, I've come home early. I'm on my way back to London to meet you because I thought we were meeting and you've ruined my evening. What am I going to do now? You're selfish. I don't want to be with you. And then I turned around and said, you're probably right, actually. I'm obviously not the right person for you. But the thing is with me, if I'm finished, that's it. It's over. Like, I'm done. Whereas obviously that person tried the same tactic the next day where they was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I was like, no, it's done. And then, yeah, that's what happened.
What's your thoughts on the book, P?
I gave my thoughts on it, but that's what led Mason into.
No, you didn't.
No, that's
you
what led
didn't.
me into asking those questions.
No, you just asked me a couple of questions based on what I said.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Did you enjoy it? Did you?
I was talking about the book being. No, I was talking about the book being interactive.
Oh yeah.
And then I asked
Did
you.
you?
Yeah.
Tell me this, Pete. Did you?
Catch me out like I was
not trying to catch you.
You weren't listening.
But Pete does this right every season. You ask a question.
Yeah.
No,
And
that's true.
you ask you, what was the question? Because he doesn't listen.
No, I'm listening.
He goes rambling on.
I don't know if you-
That's ramblers over here.
You
boy.
didn't actually give your perspective on the book, but you did say.
No, I did. I said it was a really interactive book. I said I liked the book. I mentioned about how it gives you like a mirror up against yourself in asking those questions.
Fair enough.
Could you recognise?
And that's when you fire a shot. That's when you got your rifle out. Start firing shots. But I was
Clint Eastwood over there.
He's
boy.
like, I was just saying you're doing nothing, bro.
Did you? Were you aware of these type of traits before reading that book attached? These type of attachment styles. Had you seen them in people? So
Now I say, I thought you said tricks.
traits, I thought.
Traits.
Yeah.
Traits.
Yeah, but have you seen them in people? And now that you've read the book, can you see it in people, or not really? You just didn't. You just didn't really.
You don't see nothing.
I see everything. Don't worry about that, man.
You don't see nothing.
Do I see anything? No, I've got to ask myself the
You
question.
see people.
Who are you? Are you Bruce Willis?
I see dead people.
Come on, this is a game. Anyway, no, I think I do see it in people, but I mean, if I'm honest, I don't. Not that anyone goes looking for those type of traits in terms of searching for those characters.
But even like,
you're
alright,
talking about just in general.
Yeah, but like, even it doesn't have to
be.
be you yourself. I just even like relationships, friends of yours might be, family members. Can you now, after reading the book, did anything become clear in that? Wow, he needs her a lot more than she needs him, and or was it just like, did you read it and take as a pinch of salt and
Yeah, no,
think, yeah,
No, yeah, definitely. I think even with the conversations we've had amongst us, I think you can definitely tell by some of the dynamics and conversations we had that this. I don't want to say this person is leading the conversation. This person's leading the relationship as such, but this person seems to be, let's say, more in a position of power in terms of what they want of the relationship rather than the other person. So,
and maybe
yeah,
they come and go when they please.
yeah, kind of. Just depending on what they're looking for in a relationship. Yeah, so I've seen and heard many different stories of the amongst us. I'm just saying in general, many different stories amongst us.
Yeah, maybe they just disappear for 2 weeks, and then just when they think that person might be getting over, then they spring back up.
Yeah, so
Hello. Oh, dirty windows.
What the fuck are you not referring to?
What's your thoughts on the book, French?
I thought it was a good book. I thought it was a good book. To be honest,
Did you could you see yourself? Were you drawn towards any other type of relationship types, attachment styles, should I say?
Yeah, well, we've been through all this. Check the
No,
season
but
out.
this could be someone's first time listening to Fully Booked.
No, but you know.
I know. This is going out on all social platforms.
We're just having a conversation.
That's fine, but it's still going out.
But we're just having a conversation.
Avoidant.
honestly, if you find out anything about basically get that mirror.
Void.
You are funny. no, funny.
If I get the mirror, you'll just run away
Hold
from
on,
me.
did you not ask me the question? Did I enjoy
sorry.
the book?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I thought it was a good book still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite revealing. It was funny when I first initially read it and reading some of the traits that some of the attachment styles have. Yeah, a lot of them rang true for a particular attachment style.
Yeah.
I think moving on, there was quite a lot of things that I recognised in past relationships that I was like, okay, that's maybe why
They behave
they've
like
reacted the way they've done, and then I've done X, Y, Z, and then it's fallen. And I've almost read a previous relationship that I've had, so it's definitely a book I would refer back to going forward when I do get into a serious relationship that I actually want to be in. And no, that sounded wrong. So. No, that sounded dead
You
wrong.
ask anyway.
Don't speak.
No, stop. Scrap that. Nah, it's when I do want to get into a relationship. There is stuff. That's a book I will refer back to in regards to going past the mishaps and learning from past mistakes and kind of putting tools in place, because there are a lot of practical tools and strategies that it has that I think, regardless of what attachment style you are, whether you're secure, anxious or avoidant, that are quite useful. So I think it's quite a practical book, not in all senses, because there are, as again, I guess we can go back into the previous season where we've had the discussions, and there's certain things that I still stand by, and I haven't changed my mind on certain things that you guys may not have agreed with, which is cool. But I think in general, it's a good book that I would recommend and use again. I'll definitely go back and look at it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see certain times I've read books and I've almost taken it as gospel, like, okay, this is it now. I think after I digested it and I've actually reflected and I looked back, I was like, okay, it's got its uses, but it hasn't completely changed me into someone else. Like I wouldn't want it to completely change me into someone else. Like I think initially almost the stigma was, oh shit, like you're an avoidant, that's a bad thing. But now it's just almost like, okay, that is, you could put me into that attachment style, but that's not a reflection of who I am. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to take, even though it does give good pointers and it gives you good tools and stuff, I don't think you should be confined into this particular
category.
Category.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think also the book, I don't know if you can also comment on this, French MP. The book also helped to almost define me better than the words I possibly could use. So I can almost give someone that book and say, I know you've never read this, read up about what it says about the person who is secure, and that is a very, very, very good reflection of me and how I would be in a relationship with you. And I think you could almost do the same. And that's what I mean about, it's not,
it's a good point.
Even if you fall into a certain category, it's not a bad thing. It's that it's almost like, this is how I am and this is why, and this is what would help for me and you to actually
be compatible.
Which is why I said it's not always secure, everyone should aim, but what it does do is explains about other types of attachment styles and actually how you can be in a healthy relationship or work towards a healthy relationship with that type of person. Pete, what were you going to say?
It would be nice if you said that after what I was going to say. I think it would have kind of closed. But anyway, I was going to say, because you were saying not taking everything as gospel, and would you say you found yourself in situations where you're, let's say, confronted by some of the text in the book, and you think to yourself, you know what, I don't necessarily agree with that, or I know I'm in this situation now, but so I don't know if I'm making sense with what I'm saying. As to
first,
no, what I'm saying is, like, have you found yourself in a situation where the book has kind of gone over this situation before? All right, maybe as to secure, anxious, avoidant, or someone who's an avoidant in general, and you thought to yourself, no, I want to revert to type and I'm going to go in this direction.
Well,
no, I'm saying like a scenario in the book.
Yeah.
Like we've gone through the book as to a scenario. Have you found yourself in a situation in relationships? I think you had a relationship after, all right, where you may have found yourself confronted as to doing A, following the book, or B, reverting to type.
okay.
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think probably reverted back to type, but again, depends on the scenario and yeah, I guess the relationship. So yeah, definitely depends on the relationship. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Like you're saying, it depends on the situation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely.
Same question back to you.
What's funny?
French has got the giggles.
Oh,
Everyone's laughing.
I don't know, man. Yeah, just.
I would say I revert to type. I mean, if I'm honest,
Let's go piss.
I tend to. Yeah, I think I revert to type. In that, I was gonna say I tend to kind of follow what I think there's things being practical, and then there's what I want to do, and I think I've tended to kind of follow what I wanted to do. Whereas we've had discussions about what I should do, rather in comparison to what I want to do, and I've made decisions as to what I want to do. And if I'm honest, I'm still going to do what I want. Yeah, I'm still going to do what I want to do. If I'm honest, I prefer follow my heart. I know there's things that you should kind of follow as to it being better.
I think without going into too much detail, when you say you want to do what you do and all this, yeah, we've got to remember that book's based probably on relationships. Your scenarios might more be
No, it's not.
be based around more situations where it's not gonna be a relationship.
Yes, yeah, I understand. Yeah, so let's call it a situationship.
Yeah, a situationship.
But still, I mean, the point I was making is, based on who I am, I find myself to be I find myself to be a person who follows her heart. So I'll weigh up the situation as to not literature, but things being practical, and I'll think about the situation as to actually what is it I want to do, all right? And then more often than not, I feel I'll make a decision based on what I want to do, or I might. Yeah, I'll be honest.
What? You what?
Yeah, but then 5 minutes later you're thinking, did I do what I wanted to do?
No.
Anyway, no, it was a good book. It was a good book, and definitely one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favourites that we've aired. Definitely. It was very, for me. It was just like it was quite easy to read.
You smell inner.